So there are many variables that go into security within a IT system. And I want to show you here kind of at a big picture how all of these components fit together. Now we've talked about TAA, we've talked about ITARs, and we've talked about security controls and security baselines and things of that nature. But what we haven't really talked about or drawn out is how all of these fit together. And the key takeaway here is system. This constitutes, inside of this red box, a system. And a system includes the physical location, hardware, software, virtual machines, operating system, all of that, as well as process, IT and non IT process. And when we get a security ATO or a secure baseline, a certification, some would call it. This is what we are seeking for, right? We're seeking for a system certification. And those systems provide specific services. And in this example, it's email. So our users are using email. These are all of the components, all of the pieces that are required to make email work for this customer in a secure fashion. And the way we do that is we have kind of the entry point into the system and the exit point. So let's talk a little bit or support of that system. First of all, SSDs, we'll just use as an example. This could be any component that exists within this area. We have things like TAA and ITARs, and this SSD drive is basically saying, hey, I want to make sure it's from a trusted country, I want to make sure there's no malware on it, and there are other things, but essentially many environments require some form of compliance on the front end. So that would be that. And then that component adds to the system, and multiple components make up the system. When the system is done, then we have what we call security controls. So defined based on these components here, physical, hardware, process, we're going to develop security controls. These illustrate the NIST 800-53 controls, but it could be any set of controls. Could be CGIS, could be NERC, could be any of them. But we develop these controls based on these parameters. And then we collect those controls in what we call a security baseline, or in the federal government, they call it an ATO. Then we perform some form of penetration study on all of the controls in the baseline, as well as all of these components here that are making up the system. So we're doing vulnerability. It's called pen testing, but we're doing vulnerability scans. And when it passes, with the security baseline in place, with the and all the documentation that goes with that, with the controls in place and the documentation and the hardware in a static state, right? We're not adding new network switches halfway through the process because we'd have to write, right? That's right, more controls for those network switches. So once this is in a state, then we get the ATO, and that's provided by the agency for the system that's providing email. And some other examples of ATOs may be software that you have or a database in the environment. All of these are authorizations built on this same concept of let's get a TAA and ITARs, certified component. Let's build the security controls. Let's build this solution, the reference architecture, as a system to provide a service, right? In this case, email, controls, baseline, do the penetration studies, and then that enables the agency to get an ATO.